Good evening, everyone. My goodness, we haven't had such a full house in a long time. Wonderful to see everybody here. This is a true testament to the democratic process, and I want to welcome you all. The purpose here, of course, is a public meeting with regard to Leith Beach, and I know you all have a very personal interest in here. We're here to listen to your concerns and listen to your comments and to listen to the proponent as well. No decisions are made this evening at all. I have to tell you that right up front. This is just an information gathering session that we have. I have a full script that you'll have to bear with me as I read. But before I do that, I just want to make sure that we have a clear passageway out of the exit. Not that we're going to have a problem here, I know, but just to remind folks that there is an exit over to this side, the one that you came in, and there's also an exit this way out to the parking lots should the need arise, and we hope that it won't. So welcome everyone again, and we will get underway. It is 6 o'clock, and that is the appointed hour. I, Barb Klumpus, Mayor of the Municipality of Meaford, hereby call this public meeting to order. This is a public meeting of Council to consider a proposed land transfer and a zoning bylaw amendment under Section 34 of the Planning Act, applicable to those lands known as 359390 Grade Road 15 and applying in part to the adjacent municipal park known as Leith Beach in the geographic township of Sydenham, now in the municipality of Meaford. The requirement to hold this meeting is that there must be 20 days notice, and I'll ask the clerk to please confirm that that notice has been sent.
Notice was sent on May the 17th, 2019, which gives 24 days notice, thereby meeting the requirements.
Thank you, Matt. So Council is here tonight to hear representation from those in favor and those in opposition to the proposed amendment to the municipal zoning bylaw of this property. If any person or public body that files an appeal to the decision of the Council with respect to the proposed amendments does not make any oral submission at the public meeting or written submission to the municipality before the bylaw is passed, the local planning appeal tribunal may dismiss all or part of the appeal. Any person who wishes to receive notice of passing of the proposed amendment must submit a written request to the municipal clerk. We'll hear from municipal planning staff and the applicant first, followed by those who wish to speak in favor, then those who wish to speak in opposition to the proposal. Liz, will you please explain the requested land transfer and the proposed zoning amendment and provide us with any comments that have been received by you concerning this proposal? Thank you.
So we were discussing, as we received quite a number of letters from the public on this file, that I typically stand the other way and talk to Council, but we've got such a large audience here, I think it makes sense that we have a conversation as well as with Council. So forgive me, I am also speaking to you. I will provide some information and we'll get underway. So first off, I would just note, as you came in, there is a sign-in sheet that's out in the lobby there. There is no requirement to register in advance for speaking at the public meeting, but if you do choose to speak, we would ask you to make sure that we do have your information. We want to make sure that we have your name correct in the minutes. In addition, if you want to receive additional notices in the mail or kind of follow-up information, we would ask you to sign in as well, and that way we have a mailing list that we can connect with everybody at. So I have prepared a presentation. First off, I thought I would speak just briefly to the comments that we have received, and then I'll get into providing a little bit of background information. So we have received comments from several agencies. The Conservation Authority, Grace Auble Conservation, has provided us with some comments. The applicant has pre-consulted with them, and the Conservation Authority identifies that a permit is required under their regulations for any site alteration or construction on the property. They identify that the works proposed are outside of the recommended 15-meter wave uprush setback from the high water mark, but they do recommend that we look at some additional shoreside protection for the septic system. which would be part of a detailed design as we get to that stage. They request that the existing area of riparian vegetation, so the treed area adjacent to the bridge and the watercourse, be maintained. And they'd also like to see some engineering assessment if we're looking to change the grading in that area at all to make sure there's no negative impacts on the creek. And I'd say that those are fairly standard comments for this stage of a proposal like this. We did receive also comments from the County of Grey, Planning and Development Department. They noted that the proposal does meet the high-level county official plan policies, and then also the County of Grey Transportation Department did provide comments. They had carried out a site visit, and they noted that overnight parking would not be permitted within the boulevard, but generally they found the proposal to be generally acceptable. And then Historic Saugeen Métis did provide us written comments to say they have no objection or opposition to the proposal. We have received quite a number of public submissions. I think this is probably more than any process that I've been a part of in my 13 years with the municipality. And so what I thought I would do is I'll read aloud the names of those having made submissions. If you have made a submission and don't hear your name, please do connect with me after and we'll just make sure that we track that down. We've been getting responses in through council as well as a couple of different members of staff. So we want to make sure we've captured everything. And with that, I will read a two-sided list of names. So we've been contacted by John Bossy, Jean Brown, John Bryha, Jack and Kathy Campbell, Philip Kaplan, Braden Carberry, Lene Carson, Barry and Marnie Koch, Mary Cordell, Eric Kroos, Leslie Dackins, Betty and Hugh Dunbar, Rex Garrett, Jennifer Gray, Jim Hasty, Channy Henning, Peter Hodgson, Patricia Kay, Glenda Kerr, David Long, Joel Laheed, Ted Laheed, Steve Lustig, Roy and Jean McLeod, Judy Manger, Susan Martin, Deborah McCubry, Dorothy McLean, Catherine Miller, Donna Mitchell, Lloyd Moore, Stephen Margalis, Paul Osadjuk, Linda Pearson, Deborah Reithmeyer, Peggy Richardson, Elizabeth Robinson, Barry Simpson, Michael Simpson, Lynn Sparkhall, Pete Telford, Cheryl Turner, Rob Turney, Bert Wakeford, Mary Wallace Morris, Gary Willis, Calvin Woods, Francis Coe, Mike Sinislo, Greg and Lois Tonaguzzo, Bob and Carrie Nadon, Gail and Gary Brewer, Jim Hasty, Ian and Marilyn Goldie, Scott Grimboldi, that was for the Sportsmen's Association, Stephen Mackay, Brenda Marsden, Dina Sands, Jim Sullivan, Barb Bryha, John Farmer, Eddie and Michaeline Mizu Yabu, Don and Grace Marshall, Nancy Campbell, Bob Van Dilder, Mary Reynolds, Natalie Sidoruk, Joe Switzer, Betty and Barry Lewin, Mike Fisher, Teresa and Myatt and Rick Caswell, Rudy Meyer, and Louise Rutherford. So those are the ones that I have in my file. So if there is anything missed there, then just let me know and we'll make sure to follow up on that. Okay. Do you have a ID with you? Is it under there? No. That's okay. I can. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so I think, so like I said, I prepared a short presentation, and really the goal of this evening is to receive input on the proposal that has been received by the municipality regarding Leith Beach. I thought it would be useful to speak to some of the key elements of the proposal before we open the floor for additional comments from the public. And I know that we have received a large number of submissions. And firstly, I really appreciate that people have taken the time to provide that comment. That's very helpful to us in understanding what the residents in this area value, and that really helps us in making good recommendations to council. Secondly, though, I'd note that it does appear that there are some elements that could be clarified. Just based on some of the comments that we've received, I'm not sure that there's a full understanding of all of the elements. So I wanted to make sure to provide you with that information before we get going. Okay, so I thought I would begin with a little bit of recent history. I really find myself to really enjoy kind of the research element. And so one of the questions that came up was around how did we come to own this property? Where did it come from? And so I did a little bit of research into the documents registered on title, and it appears that they were transferred to the Township of Sydenham in 1949 by Rickson and Broderick. but as required by a Supreme Court judgment in 1946. So I don't exactly know the backstory with that. I'd be happy to hear if you know the backstory, just as a matter of curiosity, but that appears to be how they came to be within municipal ownership. The building owned by the applicant was constructed around 1952 and has seen an addition over the years. And then going through the information I have, there was a notation identifying the building on site as a store on a 1969 plan of survey, and it was later enhanced to a 20-seat snack bar, and then later on expanded to a 34-seat restaurant, later with a patio, and there have been several ownerships with, I understand there was golf course and trailers, and it's had various different incarnations over the years, but there was quite a number of past agreements relating to exchange of parking for maintenance by the landowner. So that is what I found when I looked historically. Thank you. The other thing I wanted to provide a bit of context is around kind of the framework within which we consider land use proposals. So the official plan is the primary planning document that outlines the policy direction, and we consider all land use proposals against the policy. So in this case, the 2005 official plan identifies Leith as a rural settlement area, and objectives of the plan are listed here. So it's about creating a place that people want to live, and making sure that we are considering kind of other uses that would go along and support that livable community. So with respect to this proposal, encouraging the development of additional commercial and tourist-related uses, but I think its character is noted up there, and so it's about finding the right balance between commercial and tourist uses and then the community uses that are existing there as well. So with respect to the proposal itself, so the applicant is proposing an exchange and purchase of additional lands from the municipality. Presently, their lot is located quite centrally along that frontage, and so the proposal is to kind of pick up that lot and move it over to the side. They have also sized a septic system based on soil testing and the proposed building, and have requested to purchase lands to accommodate that. Purchase of any lands would be subject to an independent market value appraisal, so that would set kind of the rate for any sale that council considered. And my understanding in speaking with the applicant is that it's their intention that they would demolish the building and then build a new building with a restaurant with a liquor license, and that's where that pub wording came from. And the intention is that there would be 2 suites for accommodation. One of the things that's come up a couple of times in the comments is around what does that mean in terms of suites. And so what they've proposed is 2 bedrooms, each with an ensuite bathroom. So that's what I mean when I say suites. The zoning as requested would facilitate future conversion to a dwelling. And then the reconfigured parking area and entrance exit to the beach, I'll cover that with a map so that we can kind of look and see exactly what they're proposing there. I've heard a lot of people asking, are we limiting it to the one existing entrance? And no, that's not what is proposed. They're proposing the entrance be moved over away from the bridge. One of the elements of the application is to include public washrooms within the building, and that would be for the life as a restaurant. Although I think that's one of those points where I'm hearing that we may need to have some further discussion. So certainly we can do that. And then I would confirm that the proposal doesn't directly involve the beach area itself, nor the existing boat launch. Okay. So with respect to the steps that the applicant and municipality have taken to get to this point, as I mentioned before, the applicant has pre-consulted with the Conservation Authority, so they had a general understanding of what the constraints on site are. They also did have a site meeting with the Transportation Department for the County of Grey to discuss parking and access and siting. The sizing of the proposed land acquisition is largely driven by the design requirements for a septic system. And when we look at the mapping, and as you've seen on the notice, it's quite a large system, and that kind of highlights some of the challenges that the applicant is facing in terms of looking at that existing parcel and how do they look at redevelopment of that when the servicing requirement requires quite a large bed. And then with respect to notice, the requirements are set out by the Ontario Planning Act. So that requires that we send direct notice to landowners within 120 meters of the property. There were signs posted on site as well. And then we've also got everything posted on the website along with the plans and documents. Although I do understand that some folks were having a hard time accessing the plans and drawings. So if you'd like to see those and had a hard time accessing them, again, you can contact us and we can send you a copy directly by email. Okay, so this was the map that was included with the notice that was circulated. It shows a new lot area, so including the moved over lot and the additional lands that they're requesting of 1,324 square meters. So that's about 34 by 38 meters in size. It doesn't include any of the beach area. It's behind the posts. And the entrance would be oriented to Grey Road 15. The public area, including the beach and not including the area that's underwater currently, would be about 2,300 square meters. So there still is quite a large area of public land that would be maintained, which includes the majority of the parking. And the building footprint they're proposing is 220 square meters, which is just shy of 2,400 square feet all in. The occupancy is 61 persons for that restaurant that they're proposing. Okay. And then on this map, I just wanted to show, so I mentioned before the septic kind of largely drives the sizing of the land acquisition request. So the septic system and the buildings are required to have a 3-meter side yard setback. That's per the Ontario Building Code for the septic system. So that's what drove kind of the lot lines on either side of that system. Although to the north, towards the water, I think that there is some potential to look at changing that lot line if we were to have further discussions on that. And I know the Conservation Authority has suggested we look at some kind of armoring of that shoreline side. So that might be something like a low block retaining wall or something, which might be a nice feature in terms of where the public could go and sit and watch the sunsets, that kind of thing. Okay, air photo. So in retrospect, I think the notice would have been much more useful with an air photo included. Because I think having visual landmarks to kind of anchor the map would have been helpful. This reflects approximately the land area requested. So the yellow area there reflects the portion that is requested for purchase and trade. Okay, the green area is the beach area and public driveway and access, and the red arrow reflects the location of the proposed revised entrance and exit to the beach area. This air photo is from 2015, so it shows an area of land that's now covered in water, so that's reflected in blue at the top of the air photo. So I just wanted to make sure that you had that context. I know the applicant has prepared some renderings as well, so that I hope will help you kind of picture in your head what they're proposing. Okay. Okay. So we have, as I read through the list, received quite a number of public comments. These are kind of the key themes. Not trying to simplify the comments, they were very heartfelt. People had a lot to say, and I can tell that you really love and value this area. But I just wanted to show you that we have read them, we have heard what you have to say, and I think, you know, there are some kind of in principle disagreement with the idea of public land being used for private purposes. And the one thing that I wasn't expecting, and which got me, was this sense of loss or betrayal that it would be considered. And I think that surprised me. That is not something that I expected to see in the comments, so I'm learning. But I think that really demonstrates that community connection with the area, and I think that, again, just kind of amps up the importance of making sure that there's that discussion around balance between community and private uses. I know that there has been some concern regarding the viability or longevity of a restaurant at this location. I know over the past there's been some success, and I mean, people keep trying it, so I feel like there's some merit to that. People seem to think that it has some attraction for that purpose. And again, kind of going back to those planning policies, that's a direction that we're encouraged to go through the policy that's been set out. I won't belabor it, but I think kind of functional considerations are in there as well, and then just making sure that that is still a functional beach and functional park if we were to consider a transfer, and those messages are definitely coming through loud and clear. So just, I guess, next steps. So after me, I think the mayor will invite the applicant to come up and present their renderings and speak to what they have in mind. We'll hear verbal comments from the public today, and then we'll consolidate those. So make sure that we have a full understanding of what the issues are. It may be appropriate to hold a bit of a roundtable to really kind of delve into kind of design and try and strike that balance with the application. And I think it's really kind of getting through the initial reactions and getting to that point of constructive discussion. And that's what we really try to do and find a lot of value in having those deeper conversations. And then staff will come back to council with a recommendation regarding the land transfer and the zoning amendment. And council would then make a decision on that. So like the mayor said, there's no decisions being proposed tonight. It's an information gathering. And with that, I will stop talking. And I'll turn it back to the mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz. And I will now call upon the applicant, John Liddell, who is with us tonight. If you're not John Liddell, would you please tell us who you are?
I'm Lloyd Hunt, and I'm an architect working on this, and I'm going to go through the renderings.
Oh, okay.
So we're gonna, you're guiding. Just relax. So first slide here is showing the existing conditions. This is we've done a model of what the existing is, and on the left side is where the cedars are, and we can see that the U-shape driveway around the building plus the deck. So go to the next slide. Whoops. This highlights the existing property. So that's the sort of side to the right is what would have been the septic field that's now, and that reflects what is the existing property. Our next step is showing where the pub would be pushed over to the side, and also to give you some orientation, we've shown where the posts are along the edge of the beach. So then our next slide shows equivalent area of what the first is. So this was all driven by a land swap, is that we would consolidate the shape. Instead of a U shape around the building, it would become an L shape, and actually consolidate the beach shape for more of a public zone and a private zone. So, and then the next slide, this shows the additional area required to accommodate a septic field. And we've also had additional discussion with Liz. I was saying that we don't necessarily need to have this square shape, that we could be a trapezoidal shape to give more access to the beach. Other planning will always say that you should have a rectangular shape, but there's no need for that to actually be a rectangular shape. It is simply to accommodate the septic. And then there's a triangle of this that is not used for the septic because it is the 15-meter setback that Grey Sauble Conservation Authority wants to have, and so that might as well be in the beach property. So our next slide then is what it just looks like. This is what the parking is. Above the septic field is just grass. Now, although the plan that we showed the amount of structure there has to be underground, and whenever you're dealing with a restaurant versus a house, we are dealing with grease, we are dealing with coffee, we're dealing with something that's much more intense in terms of breaking down and the intensity of the septic system. So that's what it appears then. Also part of the shape is based on gray sobble, making sure that we protect the cedars along the river side. Remains the same. Also, although this may be what the grass ends up being, that doesn't necessarily mean that that's the exact shape after what the discussions that we've actually discovered through this process. So and another question that has come up about the height of the building. We pushed the building off to the side. What I have done is we've aimed for, there's 12 meters on the beach side. The land falls towards the beach, and it is on this side, of the beach side, that we want to be able to have the public washrooms built in under the deck. So we haven't detailed how we're going to have access to that. We're going to put a little elevator in the building as well. And it's also the intent that this is measured from the lowest level to the peak of the building. Sometimes zoning bylaws will say halfway through the roof, average, all sorts of average grading and this sort of stuff that's thrown me off in the past. This is the maximum, from the bottom to the ridge. Now, we've shown us a steep attic in this space, and so therefore, in order to make a restaurant work, we need to have makeup air as well as upblast exhaust air. And you've seen the tops of lots of restaurants with ugly rooftop equipment. The idea is to conceal that into the attic space, that you have makeup air that's hidden in the attic space. We eventually have shown it here. We'll make an upblast, looks like a chimney. I've done this in lots of different restaurants. So the appearance of the building is the idea of a house, and the word pub comes from public house. And so the idea is that it's a public house on a public beach. And so we can have these sorts of things. We can have these sorts of conversations. So and then we'll go through the slides again from another perspective. Is that this shows from we're not taking the bridge away. We just didn't draw that part. Some people say not shown for clarity, but it is there. Again, the cedars to the right side is showing this is the existing building, and the beach beyond. So then this is the equivalent area that is there. The next step is our new building, and showing again our equivalent area, and then the area which will be the septic field, and then the final layout showing the parking as well as the final grassed area which will be the septic field. So, Your Honor?
Thank you for that.
Any other questions?
I don't think so. I think we're good. Thank you for that. And do we have Mr. Little? John is next.
Yeah.
John Little is next. There he is. Welcome.
What's your name, sir? What's your name?
Come and meet your new neighbors.
I know. A lot of passion. It's good. Sorry I have my back to you.
That's quite all right.
Okay. I made some notes because I just didn't want to go talking because there is a Raptors game on tonight. So these are the key points I just wanted to address. So good evening, Mayor Klumpus and councillors. We have not met yet, and I would like to introduce myself. My name is John Liddell. I was born in Leith, Scotland. My family immigrated to Canada in 1972. Immigrating to Canada was an experience for me. I was 12 when I became a Canadian citizen. Introduced new people, new experience in hockey. I just loved it. Our family took quick to Canada and have never looked back. My family started with any job. My parents took a superintendent's job at apartment buildings, while my dad also worked full-time in a machine shop. I met my wife, who's at the back, in the 70s, and we now have 6 wonderful children, 2 grandkids, and a third on the way. In the late 70s, I began my apprenticeship as a tool and die maker. Soon after my apprenticeship, I started my own tool and die business, which I still manage today. We had loved and visited the Meaford area for years, and were always looking for some property. I, in particular, was looking with the restaurant in mind. Around 2013, we had stopped in at Leith Bay River Restaurant. The view spectacular. I chatted with the owner about the opportunity of purchasing the restaurant. I vividly remember discussing how busy it might or might not be in the winter months. He said everything would be fine. It can get very busy. Timing was not right for us at that time, as my business had just survived another recession. We visited the area again in 2016. The property was still up for sale. After clearing with the municipality that indeed the property was zoned commercial and suitable for a restaurant, we jumped at the opportunity. After reviewing the home inspection, septic limitations, discussing with builders options, it was soon clear demolishing the existing building and doing a rebuild. We had been working on this for a few years at this point, and through some discussion with all concerned, it was decided to be a good idea to perhaps align the property in a more conventional boundaries. You may not know the property. I'll leave that to you, Liz. Just before I say the last statement, as far as a business and failing business, I know it was a post office. Imagine a post office in Ontario closing, but anyway, this business is not our primary source of income. It's not meant to be, and it never will be. So that's how we've all ended up here. I do appreciate everyone from coming out. The Leith pub has great potential to act as a regular gathering space for residents and a place for visitors alike. This space will be comfortable for fishermen to have a drink and talk about their day, artists, bird watchers, stargazers, local sports teams to celebrate, and to enjoy a quiet drink at sunset, or to act as a headquarter for a fundraiser. We want to work with the community to ensure we offer opportunities that are of importance to the Leith and Meaford community. There is no doubt that Leith is a very special place to the community, myself, and my family. My intention is only to better it and make it even more enjoyable for all of us. Given that Meaford and Owen Sound have their fair share of franchise dining options, the Leith pub will offer a comfortable yet unique opportunity to dine and further enjoy the Leith community and surrounding areas. I would like to thank everyone at the Meaford Municipal office. They have been nothing but professional every step of the way. I thank everyone for their time today. I truly believe and have faith in this process. Respectfully, John Liddell.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Mr. Liddell. So now it's your turn. We welcome members of the public with an interest in this matter to come forward. I would ask, though, that as Liz has given us all the list of people that we've already heard from, and I've read every one of them, I'm sure all of the rest of council have read the letters that have come in to me, and I forwarded them on to our planning department. We have a complete list with all of the information that you guys have provided, the letters, and there will be a formal report from staff compiling all of that information at the end. So I would ask that if you have provided prior written comments to us, unless you have something new to contribute, with a lot of folks here, some of whom may not have communicated with us in this way before, then I would ask that you let us go through the written comments that we've had, and I will certainly welcome anyone who wishes to add to their comments or to those who have something new to bring forward. So I will now call upon those who support the project to come forward, knowing that we have received communication in that light as well. We have received those in support of the project. If there's anyone in the audience who would like to come forward now at this point, speaking for the project. Okay, going once. All right, then I will call on, Steve, there we go.
Do I have to come up here?
You do, please, and tell us who you are for the record.
Okay, I'm Steve Doherty. I've been here in 45 years in the community.
Welcome, Steve.
Just became aware of this project in the paper recently. Based on what I've seen, it looks like it could be a win for the whole community.
Okay.
So that's as much as I got to say.
What's your name again?
Steve Doherty.
Builder. Thank you, Steve. Is there anyone else? I don't want to cut anyone off from the our outside areas if anyone wishes to speak for. Okay, please come forward. Diane, come in this way. You won't get through the throng.
I know you've spoken about the septic system. You know, there's a lot of issues that I have concerns about, but, oh, it's Diane McIntyre. And I am very concerned, I guess, about the particulars to begin with, but the septic system with our changing water levels at this point, and I think that that has to be taken into consideration, especially considering that it's a beach. I think that a lot of the homes along there have been there for a long time, and adding such a significant you know, burden to the area for septic could be a potential issue, and I'd hate to see the area under boil water advisory. I know that I've read a little bit about an area in Waynfleet. I haven't had that much time, but it was new septic systems that they were putting in there, and it seemed that they have had issues with the water quality, even though the septic systems are new. So that's something that I think the council should take into consideration. For sure.
Thank you, Diane.
Thanks.
So that then leads us into those who wish to speak in opposition. Please come forward and tell us your name.
Marnie Koch. I do have a prepared speech, and it's on behalf of the neighbors who live immediately around this property. We were the ones who received the notice, and we read it with the proposal with great dismay. We've written letters to you expressing our concerns, and we've spoken with your planning department, shared the proposal with as many Leith and Annan residents as we could, given the narrow distribution of the notification, and we've done our best to inform those in the immediate area. And I have a summation of our comments. If you wouldn't mind, I am speaking on behalf of a group of people. The first concern is regarding the sale of public property. Leith Beach is very small. It is just over half an acre to begin with. It's about 0.61 actually, and the property that is owned by the private individual is about 0.12. And even though this fancy rendering, which doesn't look like Leith Beach at all, I might say, with that change of property, the public space would be about 0.4 of an acre, and the private space would become 0.33. That's quite a difference from what it currently is. The beach was owned, as we know, by the Rickson sisters and then by Sydenham Township. As such, the expectation of ownership of a public park is that it is entrusted to the care of elected politicians and the local community. In essence, we and you are the custodians of a heritage property, charged with the responsibility of taking care of it and ensuring that it will always remain available to anyone who wishes to enjoy all it has to offer. We're thus opposed to any thought or consideration of the sale of this public heritage property, whether that be to a private individual, a corporation, or other. I'm going to just change a little bit of my speech here because we've heard a few of the other things. With the proposed plan, most of the parking that is in existence today. When you come in off the road, you go down into the little park area, and there's parking all along where the wooden posts are, and then you can exit on the other side. Those who bring in a boat on a trailer have ample room to put it into the water at the ramp, and then to park down in that area safely off the road. Leith Beach is a very small municipal park, I say again, and is unsuited to a commercial venture of the magnitude of this proposal, which more than doubles what it currently is zoned for. And let me reiterate, please, that we are strongly and passionately opposed to the sale or lease of any portion of the public parkland. We do not have any misconceptions regarding the beach itself or the boat ramp. We know it will still be there to be used. And we understand that the building and its septic system may need to be replaced. But we believe that should occur and remain solely on the existing private property. Our second biggest issue is about safety. I live on Grey Road 15, as do many people here tonight. Grey Road 15, East Bayshore Road, and Leith are residential areas. These roads are fairly busy with vehicle traffic as they provide the access into Owen Sound and Highway 26. The municipal road shoulders are rough and narrow, and yet many walkers, runners, and cyclists travel these roads daily. The current semicircular drive at Leith Beach is functional. The entrance at the bridge allows vehicles traveling northeast to see oncoming traffic prior to entering the park. And you cannot tell that on these diagrams, but this one that's up here is a really good one because the visibility when you come from the north and the east side, the visibility actually looks towards the bottom of those diagrams. It doesn't face the road at all, so it's a very blind spot. Those traveling in the opposite direction are already going slowly due to the sharp turn onto the bridge. The exit of the park being at the southwest side provides the motorist with ample visibility for entry onto Grey Road 15. We feel that the proposal will endanger those who access Leith Beach. Having one point of entry and exit with cars parked on the municipal road shoulders and being only marginally removed from the end of the bridge will be a dangerous change and not an improvement at all. We shouldn't have safety jeopardized by the frequent delivery trucks stopping on the road allowance or in the driveway either. Rezoning is our third issue. In a residential neighborhood, the noise levels associated with a large pub, such as loud music, rowdy crowds, cars coming and going, up to 2 a.m. in the morning, as licensed in Ontario, and the odors from greasy fryers and septic systems wafting through the air, it shouldn't be tolerated. A restaurant with the capacity mentioned in the proposal, or the 70-seat capacity that John has been mentioning to a few neighbors, is better suited to a venue on a much larger piece of property outside of a residential neighborhood. We shouldn't have to be considering this type of or size of commercial venture on this most precious natural parkland. If this is the type of business desired by the owner, then another piece of property should be sought. Councillors may be enticed by the thought of a private owner willing to build public washrooms in their private place of business. While we'd all say that a public park with nice washrooms would be great, this is not a piece of property for this to happen. The requirement of the size of the septic system to handle the restaurant and the public washrooms makes it prohibitive to do on the existing property. That should be the end of the discussion, rather than considering putting it on parkland. There's also the fact that the proposal clearly states these washrooms will not be available if the restaurant isn't open. And that could happen seasonally. It may happen right from the get-go, or it may at any time in the future happen if the restaurant closes. Those with knowledge of septic and water systems have eloquently expressed their concern of a septic system this size. in the location as outlined on the plan. And I refer you once again to the letter from Frank and Marion Ford for the details of these concerns, which also mentions underground fuel tanks having been on the property in the past. We are of the understanding that applications for building permits on empty lots in the area have been turned down because no additional hookups to water are permitted. While the private lot has the water hookup, we're concerned about the adverse effects that might occur with this increased usage. In summary, we're opposed to rezoning this property. The future. If the residents of Leith were asked what they would like to see at the beach, the responses would be diverse. Perhaps it would include a roofed structure with a few picnic tables. The boat launch and adequate safe parking would most definitely be included. Beach sand and safe swimming would also be part of the picture. In other words, a clean, environmentally friendly community beach park. This space is where all the Leith residents came to play back in the 1800s and all through the 1900s. Even in the 21st century, the July 1st weekend saw the hamlet gather for fireworks at the beach. And we want to be able to enjoy and relax all the park has to offer. We're grateful to the municipality that it gives the beach a little loving care, such as removing the garbage and emptying the portable washroom on a regular basis. May we suggest that the municipality update its website so that Leith, Annan, and the Township of Sydenham had a presence, perhaps even listing Leith Beach in the list of beaches in the municipality. In closing, we respectfully ask the councillors of the municipality of Meaford to reject the proposed sale of public parkland known as Leith Beach and the associated rezoning application. Despite the enticement of increased tax dollars, the sale of this property to a private individual, whether it be for a business or potentially a larger private residence, should not be accepted. As custodians of this piece of heritage property, the municipality has a responsibility to ensure the park is not only maintained for the public, but is well and lovingly cared for all to enjoy now and the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Marnie, for your comments. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak for the, against the project? Yes, please come forward and state your name. Hi.
Good evening. Mayor and councillors, my name is Judy Wright. I reside in the municipality of Meaford. At this time, I do wish to provide details on a few points. As a resident of the municipality of Meaford, I know the Leith Beach area and what it entails. It is an environmental haven for public pursuit of swimming, scuba diving, horse, wagon ride events, sailing, fishing, church services, picnicking, etc. I have and expect to enjoy future undiminished visits, as do many others. As an equestrian, sadly, visits on horseback and teams and buggies will no longer happen as the proposal changes, as the proposed driveway change will make it impossible to negotiate safe turnarounds in a driveway that is entry and exit driven in one. The parkland has been a destination for decades and for generations of families. Every year I encounter visitors from outside our county, locally, and from afar, Toronto and Guelph, to name a few recent. This little parkland jewel is an established destination, and this proposal is a land grab. Additionally, safety is being disregarded by the proposed plan to remove the present exit area to the public. The horseshoe design exists for sound reasons, and signage on the south side of the driving area states, "Exit only." The proposal sees entry and exit both on the north side. Turning north from this point is dangerous as visibility is poor to nil due to bridge configurement, which Mr. Hunt removed in his presentation. I repeat, turning north from this point is dangerous as visibility is poor to nil due to bridge configurement. The horseshoe design is sound. Flooding occurred in the parkland between 1985 and 1986, and because of the extent, the homeowner at the time attempted to help prevent future flooding by placing large boulders across the width of the west edge of the property. Other residents among the shoreline were also flooded. In 2019, of course, we are experiencing high water levels in Georgian Bay, and I am worried the proposed sewage system could be disastrously impacted. A long-time Leith resident provided the 1980s information and reports the water had reached the gravel horseshoe-style road. Also, there is a slope linked to the creek and the road where parking spaces are proposed. Creation of parking spaces could affect the integrity of the slope, which could negatively impact the creek, which could lead to more flooding. Please do not allow the personal want of one Meaford resident to supersede the needs of the many. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else? Please come forward. We've got one over here first, and then you, sir. Welcome, sir. Can you
Your
tell
Honor,
us who you are?
Council members, I wasn't going to speak tonight.
Can you tell
I didn't
us
have
who
anything
you,
prepared.
Can you tell us who you are, sir?
Just a minute.
I have to check your birth certificate.
Kyle Robertson,
Thank you.
30311 or 11 Gray Road, 19. Anyways, the Rickson's ladies, the sisters, were mentioned, and I thought, well, those two gals donated the golf course. To come back to this, I moved up from Hamilton to Leith, and I said, oh my goodness, what a great place to come to. A golf course in my backyard, fishing, hunting, a beach. The two Rickson girls apparently donated the beach, and they also donated the golf course. And you see what happened at the golf course. Now those two gals be rolling over their grave, at least one of them. Now with this proposal on the land that they gave with a handshake, the other gal will now be rolling over her grave, in her grave, to see what's happened to that land. I know that people like to forecast the future of certain businesses, but the Leith store, there's been a lot of owners, a lot of failures. The best owners we had there was Garth and Vinot. It was very successful because it had tons of people coming in all the time. But now, with the other businesses taken over, there was hardly anybody coming. Even though one party happened to get Liquor Control Board access. That didn't really help the business, I don't think. Secondly, if we're going to sell township property, can I not bid on it? Do I not have the right to bid on that parcel of land? I'm not sure. I don't know. But I think, speaking for the Ricksons, I do not want to see this go through. What we had in the past has been good enough for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Robertson. Appreciate your comments.
Ted Lowhead, resident of Leith, or somewhere close by. I agree with all of the points made so far. General principles, the transfer of parkland to private hands, just shouldn't happen. What I'd like to point out in particular is that the slides I've seen here are not to scale and don't really represent the situation at Leith. From what I've seen in the plans, and the reason I bought, one of the biggest reasons I bought in Leith was because of that park and the boat launch. The boat launch is very important to me. I know as a lifelong equipment operator and boater that on the plans that I've seen, there is no way you're going to be able to pull a truck and trailer or a car and trailer into that lot and back into that boat launch. Can't be done. Then if you do manage to do that, if you're as good as me, and you do manage to do that, you won't be able to park anywhere down there. You're going to have to go up on the road. The road sides there are very narrow. I don't know if the municipality would want to widen them out and park all the way up and down for this, but not the way to go in my mind. We heard about the potential for flooding of the septic system. What nobody's mentioned so far is that we have winter in Leith. And what happens is at that mouth, the waves come pounding in all winter long and freeze, forming pack ice. That pack ice can be 6 or 8 feet high. What happens then in the spring is the river starts breaking up and you get chunks of ice coming down, floating down. They go up against the pack ice. They go under the pack ice. I've seen that pack ice go right to the bottom. We go out there fishing on it, drill a hole, and you can't get any clear water to fish in. What happens then is the river starts to back up. I've seen it burst over on the north side, not yet on the south side, but it could happen. There's not all that much distance between the top of the water and the land. And so I have a suggestion, and that is that the municipality of Meaford buy this property, make it into parkland, the whole thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lougheed. Please, come forward.
Hello, Jim Hasty
Hi,
from
Jim.
Sydenham, just east of Leith. I recognize that you have mentioned, Barb, that there have been a lot of submissions, and I have already put one in as well, but I do have a few comments to make which are pretty much similar as everybody else, but maybe a little different twist on it, okay? So I've tried to summarize some of this stuff again to eliminate it. Anyway, I'd like to say good evening to everybody here, the public, staff, and the proponent as well. When I first learned of this proposal, I was astonished and definitely upset. And I immediately let others know and provided a letter of objection to council members and Meaford staff. And I did mention at the time that if this proposal is passed, Meaford will have made an enormous mistake. And as I see it, just one of the issues here is that this development will reduce the access to the green area. By reducing the size of the parking lot, public parking and therefore access will be greatly minimized. There's a lot of use of Leith Beach by residents and non-residents alike. It doesn't matter whether people are from here or away. There are no quantitative numbers that I know of the visitors to this area, but we know that it's used from sparingly to heavy. Similarly, I suspect that neither council nor the proponent has any quantitative numbers to refute my claim that the area can be heavily used. So just for an example, I want to share a recent visit to the beach. I spent 2 hours there last Tuesday evening from 7:30 to 9:30 fishing, not catching, fishing. Yeah. And during that time, there were 8 vehicles that went in and out of the parking lot. And by the way, the vehicles had people in them as well, so it wasn't just the vehicles. And I figure that 6 stayed for more than an hour. And about half the people were fishing, the rest were just hanging out, doing whatever they do. And the weather wasn't warm, and there didn't appear to be a great sunset in the works. And I expect as the weather warms up, more people will visit. And although this is only one example, it is an example of the importance of the area. So to date this year, I have spent numerous hours at Leith Beach, as I have in many past years, either alone or with others. So I have a very good idea of the amount of usage that this small piece of land, my land, your land, the public land, far flung from the center of attention and out of sight for the most part by the town of Meaford. So I'm just summarizing up here, not much left here. There are many questions that council and staff must consider about this issue. For example, parking and access to the beach, environmental, safety, high water levels, restaurant noise, river and lakefront erosion, etc. And I'm going to provide just a couple of questions only just to get you thinking about it, and I think that Meaford must consider. Has the municipality done any parking studies of the area, the parking lot and the roadside? Has the proponent provided any studies of the use of the area? How do staff and council propose to address this issue of the limitation of public parking and the impact of the reduced parking area on the safe and easy use of the boat ramp by local residents and away visitors? And I have a bit of a harsh comment at the end here. I mentioned it is my belief that council can make an enormous mistake here. Council must remember when election time comes, the proponent has one vote as to the numerous votes of the opponents. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to come forward, please?
Good evening, Mayor
Welcome.
Compass, Council. My name is Liz Robinson. I live at 102 Market Lane in Leith, in the heart of Leith. For those who don't know me, I live in the house with the red roof right by the little Peter Cameron Play Park on the corner there. I've lived there for 8 years, so I'm a relative newcomer, I suppose. One of the main reasons I bought my property 8 years ago was because of that beach. You know, you can walk to it. It's right there for all the people who do not own shoreline property. That's where everybody goes. We walk down there summer evenings. We all go in for a dip. If it's too hot in the afternoon, you go down, you walk down to the beach. I can't work right now, but that was the plan. That's why I bought my property there. So I'm very fond of that beach. But I have to say, and just hear me out, I'm not dead set against the proposal. I understand, based on what the owners said tonight, that there might be some flexibility, that we might have a roundtable discussion about it. Clearly, the size of the septic bed is determined by the number of washrooms, the use of water. So we're proposing public washrooms. There's going to be 2 extra washrooms upstairs on the 3rd floor where the other rooms are. They're going to be like sort of like a bed and breakfast or motel sort of thing. So those are washrooms. So if there's some flexibility, maybe there's going to be some flexibility in the size of the septic bed. So that's one thing I wanted to talk to you about. Another thing, and I think Liz, you mentioned this evening, about the potential for additional shoreline protection built up around the septic bed. And I thought about that, And I thought about that in the context of the potential for future use as a private dwelling. And I hope that council, when you're considering this proposal, when you're having your deliberations, when you're thinking about this, that you will always keep in the back of your mind the potential of this becoming a private dwelling. And I'm sure, I've heard what the owner, what John has said tonight, and I believe him. I believe he is sincere in his proposal for a pub here. I can't say that I'm dead set against it, because that's what it was when I bought my property. So, you know, if it was a sewage treatment plant, obviously I wouldn't have purchased there, but it was a pub, and that's what it was, and it's been there for many, many years. So I can't say I'm dead set against it. That wouldn't be fair or honest. When Kelly and Madonna owned the property, I went down there, I had a cold beer, I took my family there Sunday morning for breakfast. They made great hamburgers. They were nice people. Exactly. So I can't pretend that the land has not been used that way. But it didn't affect my use of the beach. It didn't affect anybody's use of the beach. So I want you to consider the potential of whatever it is that you're going to approve in the context of what if it became private. Because right now, the way it's set up, the proposed parking lot, half of that is going to be privately owned. And if it becomes a private dwelling in the future, 6-foot fence, you know, where it looks on the picture as if there might be room to maneuver a vehicle with a boat if you're very good at it, like the gentleman who spoke here before. If you're very good at maneuvering a trailer with a boat, maybe you can turn around in there. I wouldn't be able to, I know that for sure. But half of that's going to be privately owned. If it reverts to a private dwelling, and I believe the owner that he doesn't intend to do that. But you never know. You can't predict what's going to happen with a number of business failures that have happened in the past. So it was lovely to have a pub there, and it was also lovely to go down and use that beach. I use it every year. I walk along the beach in the spring and the fall, usually picking up broken glass. But I swim there all the time, and I know most, if not all, of my neighbors go down there for swims as well. There's lots of children, lots of parents and kids that use the beach. So the other thing I wanted to speak to you about was the clump of cedar trees that is on the beach now, that's on the other side of the fence. I noticed that it isn't in any of the drawings of the proponents. It isn't on this plan here. There is one clump of cedar trees. It is on the beach. It's on the other side of the cedar fence, cedar posts, and it is the only, for a good part of the day, it is the only source of shade in the beach area. Would you please protect that? Whatever you decide to do in the future. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz. Appreciate your comments. Anyone else? One more? Welcome, sir. Can you tell us your name, please?
My name is Rudy Meyer.
Hi, Rudy.
Council members, hello. My first question is, why are we even here? This park belongs to the people of Leith and Sydenham Township. And it's been there for many years, and it was donated. It wasn't donated, but it was given to the people of the hamlet of Leith. So my question is, why are we here? If I came into Meaford, there's a beautiful park when you come in there. On the left-hand side, right at the waters. If I come to council and ask you for 3/4 of that park, for me to put a chip wagon there wouldn't even be this discussion. The answer would be no. So why are we trying to give away, or even discussing giving away, part of the only park we have in Sydenham on the water that we have access to Georgian Bay? Okay, that's the question. These diagrams are way out of whack. So if you council members are all relying on this, go down to the beach and look at it. Because you take this picture and shrink it. Okay, just shrink it right down. The laneway going down the hill is a slope of about 50, 60 degrees. In the plan here, you got a whole whack of parking. I'd like to see how you're going to park cars on there. On this plan, you have a boat ramp. I know it's been mentioned before. With all these parking spots, it's absolutely impossible to even put a boat in there. I don't care how good you are at driving. You have nowhere to come out. The septic system will not work, and I can guarantee you that, because in the past, there was a septic system down at the roadway where it goes around the back of the store. Let me tell you too, I owned that business from 94 till 2002, on and off. Sold it 4 times.
But you kept coming
back. I took the
back.
mortgage back. That's the only way you could sell a business down there. I ran it for 9 years until my wife passed away, and then I sold it. 3 years later, I got it back. Sold it again, fixed it all up, sold it again, got it back 2.5 years later under bankruptcy. Sold it to the next person, who then sold it to the owner that changed it from a restaurant store to a restaurant and pub with an alcohol license. And it did not work. It's too bad this gentleman didn't talk to me before, because I would tell him, don't waste your money, because you will never fill 60 people in that business down there. I had a restaurant with 24 seats. I was lucky. Fishing was excellent at that time, which has got less and less and less and less. So as far as the septic goes, back to this, the reason the septic is up on the hill is because of the water level in the bays when it goes up and down. Right now, the water's about 9 inches from the top of the sand. That sand that you show in white was put there by me. I got a permit to dredge the river mouth, and I extended about 40 feet of shoreline from the road out to the bay. I put a whole row of big marble rocks, dredged the river, and all that sand was put in there. So the water will flow through there just like anything. I'll bet you if you dig a hole 2 feet deep where these septic beds are going to go, you'll come to water. So I don't know how you're going to put 6 tanks in there, they'll all float. Okay, and the reason the aquarobic is up on the hill is because of that reason. I'm just going to be, I've submitted a form. You can see where the beach was and all the rest of it. I'm not going to get into that. I want to go watch the baseball game.
Basketball game, you mean?
The issue with this driveway of going in and out of there just does not make sense. I don't even know, like that looks nice and flat. Obviously isn't. It's a steep grade down. There's no exit coming out. That exit is going to be just as dangerous as the one that's there now. So, you obviously know I'm against this. And that's all I'm going to say. And if the owner wants to ask me questions about the business there, I'm glad to talk to him about it.
Thank you for your comments. We appreciate it. Okay. How are we doing? Anybody else? Yes.
Hi, my name is Donna Mitchell. Thanks to everybody that came out tonight. Thank you guys for holding this public meeting. We hope there'll be another public meeting in the future. One of my chief concerns is, some call me a historian in the area now. I don't consider myself that old, but short of Uncle Kyle, I remember when the Leith Bridge was a green bridge, and it had slots in it. And when you were coming down the road or from town, you could see through the bridge where cars were coming, or cyclists, or horses, or whatever. That's a gray concrete bridge now, as many people have pointed out. That's not a true reading. I grew up swimming on the beach
when I grew up swimming on the beach, we actually went down south of the beach, or whatever direction that is, in front of all those private homes now. And we spent mornings, afternoons, evenings there, and we didn't have lifeguards or anybody teach us how to swim. That's where we, the community, went. I was hoping someone would be here tonight with their children, but I don't see them because it is kind of a rather bad time to bring children. But she voiced a concern last year about embarking down onto some of that area, and she was yelled at and screamed at, and she was terrified for the safety of her children. And in this proposal, I know all things can change and we all have good ideas starting into something, but there is mention of a single family dwelling. And I'm just afraid that if a business is given an okay to go ahead and it doesn't take off or whatever, and it does revert to a single family dwelling, and a wall goes up or something else, what happens to the community access to that beach? There are laws and stuff, but that doesn't help a single mother heading down with two children to a public beach. It also talks about a seasonal pub and public washrooms. Well, if it's a seasonal pub, in the winter, where are those fisher people going for facilities? Is that public washroom still open? Who's maintaining that public washroom? Who's paying the fees for the upkeep of that washroom? And also, if there's theoretically parking for, I don't know, was it 23 cars? If the pub takes off and has a lot of people there, who has priority for those parking spaces, and who monitors that and controls that situation? Just a few thoughts that I didn't include in my letter. Thank you,
Donna. Appreciate your comments. Okay. I think I'm not seeing any more hands come up. Okay. So I will ask if there are any further comments that the planner or the agent would like to make at this point. Liz, that's you.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We were just discussing if a comment had been received for the Sportsman Association.
Yes. So it's recorded.
Yeah, so I was just asked how one would go about making a comment on behalf of the Sportsman Association. And we did receive one from Scott Grimboldi, yep. So we do have something on record from the association.
Yes, okay.
Yep, okay. Okay.
So any further comments from you?
So I don't have any further comments. As you mentioned before, this is kind of the information gathering phase of things. So we've got lots of information to digest, I think, around the council table and for staff. So we'll do that. If folks have afterthoughts, they're welcome to send additional comments on through staff and council for consideration as well. And if folks are wanting to be included with future correspondence, if we go ahead to hold an additional meeting or as reports come back to council, please make sure that you provided your information on the sign-in sheet so that we can get in touch. But unless there are questions around the table, I think that's all I have.
Questions from council at this stage, knowing that we will have a staff report come before us with a compilation of all these comments and opportunity to digest it all and then ask questions at that time. One more question?
Will there be public advisement of this process?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
In what manner?
Absolutely.
In what manner?
In what manner? The public report will, or the staff report will come to council, and anybody who has requested information to be given to them will be notified personally.
Mm-hmm.
So we've asked for names and addresses. We also have all of the correspondence that you folks have sent in to us, so we have your names and addresses there, email connections. And Liz, you had mentioned about a roundtable, the possibility of a roundtable. Are we we haven't set a date or anything for that, of course, but will that be proposed?
Great. So my thought is I'd like to make sure that everyone has time to digest the comments. And then my thought is to feed back to the applicant to just kind of get a sense, ultimately it's their application. So I'd like to have an understanding from them what their intention is to proceed as proposed, or do they want to make some amendments, and where does the process go from there? If there is an opportunity to kind of do some tweaks and have some further conversation around a revised plan, I think that might be the opportunity where we reach out to the public to be engaged again around a plan that hopefully reflects some of the comments that we've received, at which point in time we would use those same contact information to get back to everybody and invite them to that.
Well,
Excuse me, make a bigger place.
make a bigger place. Yes. Okay.
I just want, if we sent in a letter, we automatically get notice of another.
Yes, correct.
We don't have to sign it.
No, we have your information. Yes. So with that, I just want to thank you all for attending. Thank you all for your comments. We greatly appreciate it. We will give careful consideration to everything that you have said and you've proposed to us, and our staff report at the end of the day, and look forward to communicating with you again on this matter. Thank you all for coming. Safe home, everyone.